section, Engineer Clarity Community, EC2, for work. And Alan shared his story about work. I've got so many stories about work. My mom said at a very young age, Mark, you're going to be working the rest of your life. You better learn how to enjoy it. And so she taught, and my dad taught us how to take a job that was tedious and turn it into fun. And I don't think that's something that in today's culture is taught very much. Beth, your experiences in growing up and learning how to work hard?
Being fourth generation here, I had a lot of opportunity to work with my father, that he owned a business and my grandpa owned a business, that I had the opportunity to work alongside them when I was quite young, and that was all it took to convince me that this is what I should be doing.
So you're a fourth generation business owner of a printing and printing company and a newspaper publishing company, and you own a couple other businesses as well. What would you, in somebody seeking a career, what advice would you give them in being successful in a career?
You have to work hard. Even if it's not your business, you have to work hard and learn as much as you can all the time about what's going on in that business so that you can see how you can make a good contribution and be a valuable employee.
Nancy, what are your earliest memories of work and some of your childhood and growing up memories?
She had to jump off and do some work.
Okay. Alan, any other thoughts that you have as it relates to the importance of work? Like if somebody, what advice would you give to millennials that are getting into, finding their career, working at a position? What would you give to high school students about, their jobs, just any career and being successful in a career?
It is so easy to be successful. It is so easy to get promoted and rise up really fast and really high in an organization. Far easier than people think. All you have to do is work harder than everybody else. It's really easy. And as a business owner, I just look at the people, and they might not think I see. They might not think I'm looking. They might not even understand, but I see who's working hard, and it's easy.
And so when we look at the internalization model, ask yourself, am I a hard worker? If you say yes, you probably are not going to have an awakening. I remember Tom Coons, who's in his early 70s, and Daniel Kwok, bless his heart, what a cool guy. Love him. He makes me laugh a lot. So he's from South Korea. He's actually a missionary's kid. And he went ahead and said something about Peter Schmidt, who's an amputee, and he owned his own company, and he wants to be a professional speaker. So we were at the Coffee Connection, and I said, Peter's not willing to do what he needs to do to be an international, speaker, and I don't know why. Like, why isn't he? And Daniel was there, and he smiled, and he said, well, I know why. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. And I said, well, tell me. He says, well, I really can't. I said, no, it's okay. He says, well, it might be offensive. I'm like, listen, it's totally okay. He says he's a white male over 50. And I never thought of white males over 50 being lazy, ever. Because everybody, all the white males in my life over 50, man, they're working as hard as they've ever worked before, and they don't have to, but they still do. When I told that to Tom started laughing. He says, hey, let me work next to, whoever said that. Because even in his 70s, Tom laughs about how people are coming in at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. They think an 8 o'clock morning, meeting is too early. And so I grew up with super hard work ethic family. Unbelievable. And so if you say, I'm a hard worker, well, you're a hard worker maybe in the world that you've been in, or you might be delusional. So that's possible. Like other people around you might laugh. I don't know, because I don't know who you are. Or you might be a hard worker compared to 2 or 3 people around you. But as we get into competition in the marketplace, the competition becomes more fierce. And when we realize we're not as hard a workers as we think, we have an awakening. And then we need to listen to, why aren't we working hard? And we're not talking about working hard just, again, physical, but there's different intelligences. So I think there's 8 different intelligences. There's academic intelligence, so smart in school. My oldest brother's a CPA, youngest sister is a medical doctor. They are very smart academically. Me, not so much. There's relational intelligence. There's financial intelligence, social intelligence, spiritual intelligence, emotional intelligence, and career intelligence. And there's probably some others, but those are the ones. So when we're talking, often people who work hard, they work hard in one area. And often people who are really, really smart often tend to be, like academically, they might tend to go ahead and be a little weaker in working hard in their social intelligence. Like computer programmers or technology people or accountants, often their social skills might not be, as strong as maybe some other people because they've worked so hard in, maybe some other areas. So when we look at our why in life, like what's our life vision, we start to see things that, maybe I'm not as hard a worker as I thought I was. I just had an epiphany just today about when I came out of college, I went and took a 100% straight commission position, and I hated sales, didn't like salespeople, never wanted to be in sales, wasn't good at sales, made $1 an hour the first 3 months I was in business. That was not good because my wife was 3 months pregnant. We just had bought a house at the same time. And so I was like Alan, man, this is not going well. I have got to get out there. And I did things that I hated doing. And so it's interesting to me when people say, I have to like what I'm doing. Well, that's one way to think about it. But in the quantum world, my mom said, many hands make light work. And she was fond of saying, Mark, you're going to be working your whole life. You better learn how to enjoy work. And I don't think that's taught in, colleges today or in high schools. And I think you really have to teach it in grade school or even before you enter into school, that you can make any work fun. And so it's important to have the insights. In the 4 years I was in that position, I moved from straight commission to a regional manager, marketing manager, and then VP of sales. It's on track to make $460,000 a year, 27 years old, $1 million in equity, and I walked away from all of that to start my own company. The president of the company said to me, he says, Mark, you're very different than everybody else. You know how to make a ton of money, but you know how not to raise your standard of living. You have tremendous discipline. In the 4 years that I was there, and I just thought about this today, I was only asked to do something once, 2 times. One was a radio marketing campaign where the president came to me and said, Mark, are you tracking the leads? Where they came, what radio spot they came from and who's working them? And I'm like, no. And he didn't say anything. He just asked me, and I remember thinking, how stupid am I? Like that's common sense. Then I think about me, and it's not unusual. I have to tell somebody, something 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. If somebody had to tell me at once, so the principle in that's another session, is if you want to be good, be told something once. If you want to be great, don't be told something once. Know what people are going to need before they need it. And be there before they even ask for it. And if you have to be told more than once to do something, in my book, you're not that hard of a worker. Like, you never, ever, it's a moral issue, you should never have to be told more than once to do something. I mean, imagine if everyone in your workplace had that mentality where you never had to be told once or more than once, and ideally, not even once. You know what needs to be done before it needs to be done. What would that do? And that leads to intention, which leads to thinking in a different way, which leads to radical different thought. And this is the internalization model. Like, if we say, oh, I know what Alan was talking about, or I know what Beth was talking about, or I know what Mark's talking about, well, then you won't have an awakening. You're like, oh, I know that. Maybe not as much as we think we do. And that leads to then additional capabilities, which gives us leverage. And so when we have leverage, that moves into internalization, which leads to change, which leads to do, which leads to what? My good friend Peter Miles, past board member of BMW, past president of Rolls-Royce, when we were developing this model, he said it leads to what? Yes, failure. And it's so funny to me when people say, well, I tried it and it didn't work. Really? You tried it once and it didn't work? Like, I have to try something 1,000 times before I figure it out. So this internalization model, when you go through these natural laws, it should be a reflex. Like my good friend Paul Weiner, he says he has goosebump moments. It's like, oh my gracious, that's a goosebump. That's a synapse in our brain thinking, wait a minute, I thought I was a hard worker, but I'm not. Like, I need to work harder. My grandson, who's 7, Daniel, when he was 5, he said, Grandpa, I'm not a hard worker. He says, Grandpa, I'm lazy. That's the last time he ever said that. He's never said it to me again. Because, that creates, he's not going to be happy in his life. He's going to have struggles with self-esteem. He's going to have struggles with self-confidence. He's going to have struggles in relationship. He's going to have struggles with his economic engine. He's going to have struggles being happy. If he's lazy, that's not going to serve him well. So awakening is helping us to see new things, taking personal ownership. Work is what we talked about today. Caring, unbelievable. Go through that white paper and some of the training in that, and that'll be amazing. Again, connect with your art mentor on what you learned, actions you will take, and the next thing to learn. Deep learning comes from helping your 2 art buddies to manage up and out and apply all that you learned and they learned together. And then if you want to turn this into the learning into earning, go to that website. And again, remember, we can all accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. God bless and have an amazing day. Bye-bye.